Two men visit Pattaya for the first time. It's the same city, same neon, same bars, same type of girls, the same magic. One of them enjoys it, learns what he needed to learn, and moves on. Maybe he comes back once in a while. Maybe not. But he's not owned by it. The other returns for decades, 20 years, 30 years, same streets, same routines, same emotional gravity. And here's what most people get wrong. The difference isn't money. It isn't intelligence. It isn't willpower. It's what Pattaya is doing for him psychologically, and what his normal life is failing to do. Because Pattaya isn't addictive just because of sex. It's addictive because it creates relief. And relief bonds faster than pleasure ever will. Let's define the loop. The Pattaya loop isn't men being stupid. It's a feedback system. Pattaya compresses multiple rewards into one place. It is an intoxicating cocktail of validation, attention, simplicity, identity elevation, predictable intimacy, and temporary freedom from judgment. In normal life, those things come slowly, unevenly, or not at all. In Pattaya, they arrive on demand. So the nervous system learns something. Here is where I feel alive. Here is where I feel seen. Here is where I can be the man I always wanted to be. That's the loop. And once a man's brain tags a place as the fastest route to relief, the brain will pull him back there whenever life feels heavy. Not because he's weak, because his brain is doing what brains do. It is seeking the shortest path to regulation. After the first few trips, men split into two categories. Not on purpose, not consciously, but the split is real. Group A, men who treat Pattaya as information. Group B, men who treat Pattaya as medication. One group experiences Pattaya and then asks, what did that reveal about me? The other group experiences Pattaya and then thinks, I need that again, or I can't breathe. That's the fork in the road, and most men don't even realize they're choosing a path. They think they're just planning another vacation. Men who escape the loop aren't morally superior. They're not stronger. They do one thing differently. They integrate. They don't romanticize Pattaya. They decode it. They ask hard questions. Why did I feel confident there? Why did I feel socially powerful there? Why did I laugh more there? Why did I feel like a man again? And then they make the uncomfortable move. They stop treating those feelings like evidence that Pattaya is special and start treating them as evidence that their normal life is starving them. So instead of chasing the city, they rebuild the conditions. Not by copying Pattaya, by restoring the fundamentals. First, they rebuild self-respect. Gym, sleep, diet, routine, competence, discipline. Not because it gets girls, but because it stabilizes identity. A man with a stable identity is harder to hook. Second, they rebuild social life. Most men who get caught in the loop have weak social ecosystems. No brotherhood, no weekends full of real connection, no sense of belonging. So Pattaya becomes the only place where life feels social and warm. Men who escape build friendships and community outside of it. Third, they rebuild purpose. This is the biggest one. If a man's life is only work and recovery from work, then Pattaya becomes the only chapter where he feels like the protagonist. Men who escape make their real life feel like a story again. Projects, goals, progress, risk, growth. Last, they rebuild intimacy tolerance. This one matters. Some men return to Pattaya because real intimacy is hard. Real intimacy involves risk of rejection, misunderstandings, trust built slowly, accountability, and being truly known. Pattaya offers the signals of intimacy without the full cost. Men who escape learn to tolerate the cost again. They stop needing a safe version of closeness. So Pattaya becomes what it should have been, a place they visited, not a place they depend on. Now let's talk about the men who don't escape, not with judgment, but with clarity. I want to be clear about one thing. Usually these men aren't chasing sex. They're chasing relief from something. There are a few common drivers. The first common driver is validation scarcity. A lot of men live in a state of quiet invisibility. At home, no one compliments them, no one shows interest. Flirting gets punished or ignored, and attention is rare. Then they arrive in Pattaya, and attention is constant. Their nervous system interprets that as, finally, I matter. That is a dangerous feeling if your normal life never gives it to you. Another common driver that pushes men toward Pattaya is identity collapse. Modern life stripped many traditional male roles. Provider doesn't feel heroic anymore. Work feels like a treadmill. Respect feels conditional. Then, in Pattaya, a man becomes decisive, respected, needed, useful, socially visible. He becomes a role, and roles are addictive when the world stopped giving you one. A third common driver is emotional safety without risk. This is crucial. Pattaya offers closeness with an escape hatch. There is no long-term accountability, no consequences if you walk away, no real loss if the relationship collapses. That creates psychological safety. For men who've been burned, divorced, humiliated, rejected, that safety feels like peace. But it isn't peace. It's a controlled environment. And if a man starts needing controlled environments to feel okay, he will return again and again. Another common driver that pushes men to keep returning to Pattaya is age anxiety and desirability panic. This one is rarely said out loud. Some men return because Pattaya suspends time. Back home, aging changes your dating market reality. In Pattaya, a man can still feel desired. Not necessarily because he's irresistible, but because the system is designed to reward him. So the city becomes a place where he doesn't have to confront decline, and that avoidance can last until the end of his life. The last common driver we will talk about is an epidemic in the male community, and it is unprocessed loneliness. This is the root for many. Men don't always feel sadness as sadness. They feel it as irritability, numbness, restlessness, craving, or even needing a drink or a trip. So they book a flight. Not because they're excited, because they're trying to regulate something that feels unbearable. Let's get clinical for a second. The loop works because the brain learns a simple equation. Effort at home equals a small reward. Effort in Pattaya equals immediate reward. Your brain becomes trained. Not in a dramatic addiction sense only, in a normal conditioning sense. And then the contrast does the damage, because the real withdrawal isn't from sex, it's from contrast. Home feels gray, not because home is terrible, but because Pattaya was engineered to be emotionally loud. When you go from loud to quiet, quiet feels like emptiness. So men interpret normal life as dead. That's when they start planning the next trip, not because they're indulgent, because their nervous system wants the volume back. Most men watching this video are not at the beginning, and they're not at the end. They're in the middle. They know the city isn't fully real. They know the attention is part of the system. They know some of the love is performance. But real life now feels thin. So they do small things to cope. They watch walkthrough videos at night. They scroll old photos. They romanticize the best nights. They tell themselves, one more trip. And that's where the loop quietly locks in. Because the more you romanticize the city, the more you devalue your real life. And the more you devalue your real life, the more you need the city. That's the trap, not Pattaya. The comparison. So what's the exit? Here's the truth. You don't escape by quitting Pattaya. You escape by changing what Pattaya is doing for you. You have to move from consumption to construction. Instead of using Pattaya to feel alive, you build a life that produces aliveness. Instead of using Pattaya to feel valued, you build value in yourself again. Instead of using Pattaya to feel intimacy without risk, You build intimacy tolerance again. You don't demonize Pattaya. You extract the lesson meant for you. Because Pattaya is a mirror, and mirrors are sometimes uncomfortable for a reason. If Pattaya revealed a better version of you, the question isn't whether you should go back. The question is, are you willing to become that man without needing the city? Because here's the final truth. Some men return for decades, not because Pattaya is magical, but because their real life never became something they wanted to return to. If this hit close, comment below. Are you someone who escaped the pull, or someone who still feels it? And in the next video, I'm going to break this down even further, because Pattaya doesn't just reveal men, it creates them. So in our next episode, we will talk about the 3 types of men Pattaya creates. Subscribe if you want the next layer. Stay sharp.